Gentlemen, boys and ghouls, all of our non-binary friends, and everyone on the spectrum and in between, welcome back to the Shutter Show. My name is David Marlowe.
And I'm Ken Stacknick.
And today, we got ourselves another Freaky Friday, baby.
Oh yeah, Freaky Friday. The best shows, because they're the shows where I have to do the least amount of research, and David does all the hard work.
Really, the only research is just watching the movie that you didn't realize. Oh, I like this movie.
Oh, this movie slaps so hard, David. This movie has everything, and I am so here for it. David, what is the movie that we're watching today, or that we watched today?
Well, folks, funny that you should ask that, because the show that we watched today, or the movie that we watched today, is Theater of Blood.
It's curtains for his critics.
Mm-hmm. Directed by Douglas Hickox and starring Vincent Price and Diana Rigg.
God damn it, Diana
as
Rigg.
well as Ian Hendry. This was the choice between it was this and it was Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Yes.
And you chose this one because this just seemed more fun, and I agree.
It is. December is going to be a pretty dark month, and so I figured, why not?
I mean, McConnell ruined Christmas, so...
I mean, a lot of people ruined Christmas, to be fair.
A lot of... Well, let's just say it's just... Christmas is just a little... It's the slushy snow.
Yeah, and I'm very glad that I chose this movie because it was exactly the bottle of insane joy that I needed today, and I hope the rest of you will also enjoy this month because, yeah, as I said, this movie has everything. It has Shakespeare. It has Diana Rigg. It has cross-dressing. It has fake television cooking shows. It has A Man on Fire. It has leaps from tall buildings. It has crazy actors. It has...
a gang of hobos.
Not even a gang of hobos, a full-on hobo fight. Like, it's got
and it would not
so much good stuff.
It would not be a Shutter Show episode if there weren't at least a little bit of eye-gouging porn.
Yes, no, of course there's eye trauma because we try to do that every night. I don't know why I'm saying that all of a sudden, but it is.
We're keeping this on.
Oh, yeah, no. This
which
is all
only just
in.
reminds me that I should silence my phone because I'm a goddamn professional, you son of a bitch.
There we go. Well, it was actually not raining. It somehow, for some reason, started playing my train tracks white noise that I used to sleep to. I don't know why that, because I wasn't touching the phone. Anyway, that's not important.
That's your phone's way of saying it's time to sleep.
Now, yeah, what is incredible about this movie is, I don't ever think I've seen Vincent Price happier. He is having the goddamn time of his life.
Oh, it
shows.
This
oh, so much.
And he has straight up said, and so has Diana Rigg as well. Mm-hmm. They have both said, this is hands down my favorite project. Because when the fuck are you going to get to do all the big soliloquies from the Bard?
Yeah.
Like, all while doing a fucking murder mystery plot. And
But
also get to kill movie critics as an actor.
And every single one of the deaths is this big, elaborate Rube Goldberg.
Violent as fuck.
Crazy violent, but also totally weird and out there, but also kind of plausible. But then also every one of the murders ties back into the Shakespeare play where the critic who eviscerated his particular performance, he kills them in the style of that particular performance.
And let me just list to you just some of the gems of Shakespeare that is brought out in this. There's Julius Caesar, the mass stabbing. There's Troilus and Cressida, which is one of those Shakespeare plays that I have not had the pleasure of reading or seeing yet, though I do intend to at some point. There's The Pound of Flesh from The Merchant of Venice, Richard III, Othello, Henry IV, Part 1. There's Titus and fucking Andronicus.
Hell yes.
One of my favorites just because it is Shakespeare going balls to the walls, violence for the sake of pleasing the lower seats.
My dad often
love
describes,
that one so much.
My dad often describes Titus Andronicus as like, what if Quentin Tarantino did a Shakespeare play? And he's not
Completely
that far
wrong.
off. Yeah,
No.
that's not a
No.
bad description.
And then,
Dad.
of course, and then there's King Lear in the final death at the end. What I love about it is it's Vincent Price saying, I'm going to kill my final victim in the manner of Gloucester from King Lear with his eyes getting stabbed out, or just like how Gloucester had his eyes plucked out. But it turns around, and instead the death is Vincent Price and his daughter. Whereas, oh no, he's dying the way of King Lear. Oh, they know it's spoiler.
Spoilers.
You can watch the trailer, and the trailer spoils it for you.
No, this is one of those kind of movies. This is one of those movies where I didn't know a whole lot about this movie going in other than the trailer, and it was Vincent Price. And
I love it when I can introduce you to a film that not only have you not seen, but you love.
Yeah, and whether I knew everything going into this movie, or whether I knew nothing going into this movie is so entertaining. Right? So this movie is entertaining in the same way, I think, that something like Speed Racer is entertaining. Speed Racer contains a scene where a car during a race attacks another car with a catapult full of bees. Now, if you are not smiling at the term catapult full of bees, I don't think you are going to like Speed Racer. When it comes to Theater of Blood, if the term trampoline sword fight does not pique your interest, I don't think you're going to like Theater of Blood. However...
Also, you seem to be deprived entirely of joy from your life, and I am so sorry.
You? Who hurt you?
Yeah.
But...
Can you smell rain?
Trampoline sword fight. And that's just...
by far,
2 minutes of this movie.
My favorite sword fight in all of film history, next to Rob Roy.
Yeah, it's up there with, Princess Bride of, this just rules.
Yeah.
This is just...
There's no reason why this should be happening on a trampoline, but it is.
Yeah.
The director just decided to give the audience a treat.
And I will say, Douglas Hickox directs the hell out of this movie. It is not a movie... Well, Douglas Hickox did not have a huge career.
No, and it really disappoints me that he didn't really go on to do much more well-known things.
Yeah, no, and one interesting thing about him is actually he got his start as an AD, which is something that doesn't happen a lot. A lot of times assistant directors actually go on to be producers and not directors themselves, because they're actually kind of very different jobs despite the fact that they share the title of director. Mm-hmm. But I was so impressed with the low-budget filmmaking, the choices of lenses, the wide-angle framing, the uses of zooms, a lot of very creative, down-to-basics, good, old-fashioned filmmaking that you see from people like Mario Bava, who just the person does not have money to throw at this, and so instead they just come up with really interesting ways to kind of move the camera.
Great.
It does. It looks fantastic.
It's got a solid score too to accompany it. It really matches the theme. And I think this is one of those movies where it's not too gruesome, it's not too funny, to where it takes you out of the film itself. And at the same time, it's not too over the top, and that's coming from somebody who just watched a sword fight on a trampoline. It's eccentric.
Yes, no, eccentric I think is a very good way to put it. It is also a film that, is able to walk that very fine line between camp and horror and comedy, and nothing gets to be too much. The blood is silly enough that it's not disturbing, but it's big enough that it's funny, and it's elaborate enough that it's kind of interesting, or it keeps taking you by surprise. And once they reveal that, Vincent Price is killing people based on these Shakespeare plays, in a lot of movies, once you find out the MO, a lot of the subsequent murders become a lot less visceral or exciting, because
it's kind of like a haunted house story where when the family finds out how to actually deal with the monster or the ghost or the demon or whatever, the movie does lose a bit of its
because you're okay, so let me guess. Now you're going to, look, you got the crystal.
You did the thing, but it's probably not dead.
Well, look, it either worked, or it turns out there's one more thing that you need. A virgin needs to read it. Or, you need to say it in Latin. Or you need to hold both crystals. Or whatever the Act 2 turn is.
And what kind of virgin are we talking about? Is over-the-pants stuff okay?
Well, yeah, or do lesbians count? like, because women obviously have sex, but what is the curse's definition of
Did she
sex?
horseback ride a little too much?
Yeah. What? Yeah.
Like, would that ruin the ceremony?
Yeah. Is this hymen based? Like, is it, or is it just like? So yeah, like, and this movie continues to surprise you, even when you know, like, okay, well, now they're going to get killed in Shakespeare plays. Okay, well, it's this play coming up. Most of the time, you're not like, oh, well, that character got his eyes plucked out in the play. I know they're going to build a giant ramp with like a little sled on it that's going to be tied to a bag filled with sand that'll counterweight it, and then we're going to put two big swords on the front, and then we're going to strap the critic down to a chair.
Like searing hot swords, by the
Yes.
way. Searing hot daggers that have been placed in the fire, which by the time that gets there, those things have cooled off.
Yeah, and then they stab the bag, and the sand leaks out, and then little by little the piping hot stabby swords roll down the little track towards this guy.
It's a nice little murder device.
It is a very, but it is also incredibly elaborate. It is some real sharks with freaking laser beams on their heads kind of.
But there's
couldn't you just cut his eyes out?
But there's even a murder where it's not necessarily a murder of the critic himself. And sort of kind of, I guess to, like, before I explain this, like, to explain the plot to you, it's Vincent Price plays not a washed-up actor, but an actor who primarily does Shakespeare and classical plays. And
only Shakespeare.
Yeah, really only Shakespeare specifically.
And like, I would say
no Christopher Marlowe, nothing like that.
He's not the biggest movie star in the world. He's a shining B star. He is someone who a lot of people are going to know. They're going to be aware of his work, but he is not.
He's prominent in the theater community.
But yeah, he doesn't have any power. He doesn't have the prestige that like
he dresses like it.
Well, of course, because you dress for the job that you have, not the one that you want, or is it the other way around? You dress for the job that you want, not the one that you have.
Damn, I've been doing it wrong.
But like he's Lawrence, like he's not Laurence, like he's not Laurence Olivier or
no.
He's much more of a William H. Macy than he is a Leonardo DiCaprio.
Exactly.
And basically, in the twilight of his career, he thinks that he had earned this lifetime achievement award,
and it, like to him that is his right.
Yes.
Like it is his almost like he approaches it like it is his blood right.
Well, it is. He's
and
earned
to have
it,
the gall to give it to somebody else,
and he's put in the work. And it's kind of clear also that like he's getting close to kind of retirement. So there's also that kind of like guys, I'm only going to be around here for a couple more years. There's been several Oscars where like
this is literally my best season I've ever done.
Yeah. And you guys not only don't appreciate it, but you give it to the award to this young up and comer. And also, reminder, I'm not going to probably be around that much longer. And like it's
these critics who did it to slight him.
Yeah, I don't want a posthumous award. Couldn't you just? I earned this, and
it drives him a little mad, and he is
a lot mad.
He is very, and it's one of those things. This whole play is not only an homage to Shakespeare, but I think an homage to what I imagine is the writer's favorite bard play, which is King Lear. And you just not even slowly, you see him go mad and have fits of anger where there's points where he's obviously in control, and then some points where you sort of see him a little out of control. And then the last murder flips, where you think, oh, he's going to murder somebody in the form of Gloucester, plucking his eyes out, and then it turns out, oh no, he's going to go the way of King Lear and his daughter Cordelia. And it's in the whole time, and we haven't even fucking talked about Diana
Oh
Rigg,
my God, who ruined my life. Just absolutely, someone get me a time machine so Diana Rigg can ruin my life. She's so good in this movie. And
if you do not know who Diana Rigg is, Her Majesty's Secret Service, she was the one Bond girl to actually marry Bond. She was also
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. For those of you who don't really watch the classics, she is Elena from Game of Thrones. She's the bitch who wants
she killed Joffrey.
Who wants Cersei to know it was her.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell that it's her in that fucking getup that she's in.
All right, let's leave that there because that's one of my favorite reveals in this. But yes, there is Diana Rigg has a reveal that involves outfits that is fantastic. But we're not gonna we spoil almost everything on this show. I'm I'm saying we'll leave that one alone.
Okay, all right, we're gonna leave that one alone. But yeah, but kind of going back to like the murders themselves, like he doesn't even necessarily murder somebody. It's just in the fashion of Shakespeare. So when he visits Othello, for example, one of the critics, he just makes it look like the critic's wife is cheating on him with a masseuse. That is Vincent Price dressed up as a weird-looking masseuse.
Vincent Price wears so many incredible outfits in this movie. Him...
The hairdresser is my favorite.
Butch, where he's dressed like Disco Stew, yes, is absolutely incredible. That was the scene where like
we can describe everything.
Stood up from my chair and like walked around the room because I was just like, this movie's so rad. Like it's so
come out. You can just tell he's having so much fun.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's one of those movies where it feels like nobody was like this feels like a movie where the director and Vincent Price and Diana Rigg were like, we're gonna
do like Dial M for Murder, but with Shakespeare.
We're gonna go over there, far away from you guys. We'll come back with a movie, and they're like, all right, well, that's pretty inconvenient for us to go over there. And they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, no, we know. And then they just kind of did whatever they wanted, which was just create joy.
And how is Vincent Price's character, Lionheart, gonna accomplish all this? Oh, with a merry band of Dickensian hobos.
Oh, of course. Yes, no, the hobo army is also, it's also one of those things where like you introduce them and you're like, okay. Like, so this movie opens up with a landlord being told that there are tenants squatting in his, like, one of his houses.
One of his properties.
And he has to go tell them to leave. And this police officer is the one who comes and informs them. So he goes down with the police officer to this house, and being a landlord, asks all of the houseless people who are squatting there to leave, and they all kind of laugh. And then they slowly start gathering around him and intimidating him and pushing him around. And he kind of looks to the police officer to be like, are you going to help me? And he's kind of like, no. And then it turns out, that police officer is totally Vincent Price. And this is his band of merry hobos. And then they just mass stab this critic. Well, this critic / landlord several times, just like in Julius Caesar. And then Vincent Price was like, all right, so that's what you get for giving me a terrible review?
Yeah.
On to the next one.
Well, and with every death comes a soliloquy from that show.
Yes, like usually like the biggest soliloquy.
Yeah.
Usually it's like the biggest banger. It's the if they're doing Hamlet, it's to be or not to be. Like it tends to be the biggest scene. But yeah, every one of these murders is accompanied by Vincent Price getting to a big Shakespearean monologue, and it's just always so much fun. And it's also one of the things that I know Vincent Price was a huge lover of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And he was always very frustrated because him just getting typecast as a horror guy.
Yeah, he got put in a box.
Yeah, he absolutely got put in a box. And then two, I think it's also just kind of that nasally voice that he has. Like it's
very tough for him to play somebody.
Or not to be. You don't think of it in that way. You think of it as a big to be or not to. Like you think of it as bigger and grandiose. But he's so good because he's Vincent Price.
Yeah, Vincent
Price is good in everything.
And also like there's a couple really fascinating facts about this film, and I think I'm gonna go through a couple of them that I was researching about this. For one thing, I think what also gives this film its charm is the fact that it is completely 100% shot on location.
Nice.
Not a fucking set to be found.
Hell yes.
So we're talking like when he throws himself into the river, he is literally going into the river of Thames.
Thames.
Sorry, Thames. Sorry. Ugh. I'm reading off the script here.
Yeah, no. It's fine. Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, I assume it was a stuntman and a dummy, because definitely some of those shots were... I can guarantee you Vincent Price did not jump off a 6-story balcony into the Thames. Whoever did... Someone or something did it, but it was not Vincent Price.
It was a dummy, but like he was pulled out of it.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
100%.
No, he would like as in...
By his hobo army.
Yeah, by his hobo army. By his Dickensian hobo army.
So Vincent Price is told by the critics that you will not be receiving the award this year. And he's like, what the hell? I'm so mad. So he takes the award and walks out of the balcony and proceeds to give the to be or not to be speech from Hamlet. And then, like...
As he walks around to the balcony and literally a curtain opens and it's him.
Yep, full proscenium style. And then he jumps off the edge.
In the corniest shot ever.
With the award, no less. And so everyone assumes that he's dead. And then...
Which Diana Rigg could have tried to catch him.
Perhaps. She probably would have just got pulled over the edge as well.
Yeah.
And so then the hobo army pulls him out of the Thames, and then they have a big fight over his award. And then Vincent Price leads the hobo army in his quest for revenge, which is part of also what makes this film very similar to The Abominable Dr. Phibes, in that we have
it's been compared to that quite a bit.
Yes.
Actually, they're saying it's almost based off of Dr.
Phibes. I mean, it's the exact loose bones. It's a person who's been accused, who's thought to be dead, who is doing a bunch of murders for revenge, and that's part of what it must be this person. Well, that person is dead, so that kind of gets rid of the motive that we had. And then it turns out he's not dead. He's alive.
This movie is like, this plot would be great. You know what it needs? Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm. There's part of this movie that makes me totally understand how easy it was to write this. And by easy, I just mean, I get the feeling that a lot of these scenes just played, because once you start with every scene gets to have a giant Shakespearean monologue in it, and then you just start okay, well, what murder goes with this and that. A lot of it starts to piece itself together, and then there's a lot of other great stuff that's done. We should definitely shout out to Anthony Grevillebill, who's the screenwriter, and then the story was based on work of Stanley Mann and John Cohn.
And this was actually adapted for the stage by the British company Improbable.
Oh, neat.
And it was with Jim Broadbent playing Edward
nice.
Lionheart.
Hell yeah.
And Rachel Sterling, who was Diana Rigg's daughter, playing the role her mother essayed Lionheart's daughter.
Neat.
Yeah, I know. And the thing is, once I found this out, I grew up with Shakespeare. My mom dragged me to the theater constantly. In high school, I have played Romeo twice. First time in high school, and the second time professionally. I got to play Romeo, and then not only that, I got to be in Much Ado About Nothing. I got to be in Macbeth. I got to be in Cymbeline. Actually studying acting at Columbia College in Chicago. It's part of the air. And if you don't love Shakespeare, why the fuck are you here, man?
I was actually the Tempest in The Tempest.
Shut the fuck up.
No, that's not true at all.
Fuck you, son of a bitch.
I've been in one play. It was Pinocchio. And, I played a school kid with one line.
I'm just like, Ken, I didn't know you acted, other than that one home installation video that I saw you in with your brother.
I've done a couple of things here and there. You will find a smattering of me in the internet, but in no way, shape, or form do I consider myself much of an actor. Voice actor, kind of.
Yeah.
But not professionally. More of you guys need some help? Yeah, sure, I'll be glad to do that. But I'm not out there with business cards.
Yeah, and then of course, I got to live and we both got to live in Chicago, where the wonderful, the Chicago Shakes is.
Yep.
And when I was doing stage combat, my teacher gave us free tickets to Cymbeline, and I got to see him play Jupiter. And one of the things that I love about Shakespeare is how sometimes he can be so goddamn beautiful and so clever, and then just a real modern thing will happen.
Or just a bunch of dick jokes.
In his text. Oh, yeah, no. Because everyone's, by the way, if you're saying, oh, I don't do Shakespeare, that's so, it's all for the rich people, fuck you. He played to the cheap seats. He was all about,
Romeo and Juliet is almost completely nothing but
going
dick jokes.
Straight to the punters. If he could find a way to kill somebody in his play, or in the most violent of fashions, or, put a fucking dick joke in there, he's gonna do it. Because those cheap seats
need to be filled,
yeah.
And he wants
also,
those people to
he's
laugh.
like my people.
And this is also all the hits. This is I can understand not wanting to sit through, or finding it intimidating to sit through 5 hours of the complete and total Hamlet. However, You do not need to sit through 5 hours. First off, this movie is like an hour and 40 minutes long, and you just get all of the best speeches done by Vincent Price, having the time of his life.
Also,
because he only has to do them in the context of, check out this great monologue, and not
I would also argue that Shakespeare isn't that hard to understand it. If you're watching the fucking story, it's a lot of the story is pretty self-explanatory, with the exception of like some stories like the War of the Roses series, which is like Richard III, Henry IV, Part 1 and 2.
Yeah, the history plays.
The history plays. Like, those get a little complicated mostly just because of the names. That can get a little confusing. But it's just like, but once again, like, you have moments like where the god of Jupiter comes down to these two parents and just gives this boisterous monologue. And my stage combat teacher was big, and he had a voice, and it was deep, and he was perfect for Jupiter. And he comes down, and there's pyrotechnics left and right, and then he finishes his monologue, and he exits in the clouds. And I shit you not, this is just how Shakespeare wrote it. The two parents just go, "Thanks, Jupiter," and exit. They're like, I don't know how to make that dramatic, so we just play it for laughs, because I think that's kind of what Shakespeare meant to do. And it sounds so modern, and it sounds so... So I just have a desperate appreciation for Shakespeare, and I am in no way, shape, or form an expert on him. I would say a lot of my friends in Indianapolis are actually unbelievably well-versed in Shakespeare.
What's the most amazing exit that he wrote? What is it? Exit stage left, chased by a bear?
Pursued by bear.
Pursued by bear, yeah. Just like, come on, that's funny. If I tweeted that by itself, that's funny on its own. And then on top of it, it's like, oh, it's in one of the greatest works of literature of all time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have, like, the amount of phrases that Shakespeare invented that we still use to this day?
The world is your oyster. Like, just the phrase, the world is your oyster. Mm-hmm. Fucking Shakespeare. Falstaff.
Yeah, go and look up the phrases that Shakespeare invented, and it's like, wow, really? Wow, one guy, really? All this stuff.
And you can say what you can about, it wasn't really Shakespeare, it was actually Christopher Marlowe, and it was that's fucking bullshit, I'm sorry.
Marlowe died, so it would only be the first couple of ones at best.
And my last name is Marlowe, so I would love for that to be true.
Yeah,
but,
and all of that, like, well, a whole bunch of people wrote it. No, that's some real, white people didn't do it, so it must have been aliens.
No, they say that because there's 7 years of Shakespeare's life where there's very little found about him, and it's mostly like when he got into the theater and into stage writing to begin with, and so that's why that's why there's that little controversy about it. So it's just
you're saying that when a guy goes and locks himself in his house for months or years on end to write several screenplays, and so he's not out and gallivanting with people, there's not a whole lot of record when all we had was pens and quills and such?
It's a conspiracy,
about
man.
What he was doing. That's crazy. Also, to everybody out there who feels bad that during the pandemic that they did not also write King Lear, just a heads up, there was pretty much a plague most of the time that Shakespeare was alive.
Shakespeare's youngest son died from the fucking Black Death.
There was like 4 or 5 different plagues that happened at various times in Shakespeare's life. So he wrote a bunch of those plays while he was locked in the house. So don't feel bad if you didn't do it for this plague, because there'll probably be another one.
And that doesn't even fucking include the sonnets that this man has written.
Yes.
Which also, if you guys fancy yourselves some Shakespeare, I highly recommend, like, one of the great things I will say that this whole pandemic gave us was Patrick Stewart literally just sitting on his porch reading a sonnet of the day.
Mm-hmm. The other good thing is slowly watching Anthony Hopkins reveal himself to be an incredibly silly, happy old man who's slowly going crazy in quarantine. It is delightful to see one of the great actors of our time.
But then you watch his works and you're like, no, that's definitely what he is.
No, absolutely. But like, especially just like I was born in 1981. I'm sorry. 1991. I'm like 10. Anthony Hopkins wins the Academy Award for Silence of the Lambs. Yeah. And then I see him as like Zorro's dad, or Zorro's mentor in the Zorro movies, and I mostly see him in like really, really important, really, Oscar baity kind of movies, and he's always a very dignified man. You don't really see him.
Once you win an Oscar, you have a image.
Like, he doesn't. So, like, Jack Nicholson was like in some.
You can't just Jennifer Tilly your way out of it.
Well, like both De Niro and Jack Nicholson have like gone and done comedies and like really broad, wacky stuff, and like Hopkins never really did that. So then to see him on Twitter just kind of being like a funny old weirdo is just, I love you, Anthony Hopkins. You're such a wonderful old man. I want you to be my papa.
Yeah, I will also say a lot of actors that are that come from the classical theater backgrounds. Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, some of the best personalities.
Absolutely.
Do Shakespeare. It's, I don't know. It's something that has always been close to my heart. So when you chose this, I was so happy, Ken.
I'm so
glad. I was so just.
I'm so glad when you put this up, especially in contrary to.
There were two very different films.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very different.
But I was kind of like when I.
The mood would be very different if we were talking about Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Oh my God! Yes, no, that movie. Yeah, that would be like a little
David, too much right now.
Thanks for ruining my weekend. It was real fun.
You're welcome. At least it would have been the one you wouldn't have to do any work for.
Yeah, no, this is.
I'd be the one that has to show my wife this. She's like you chose this. Like you chose this film.
What did Katie think of this? Did she watch this?
She loved it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No. I'm not going to put the word love in her mouth.
Really enjoyed.
She really enjoyed it, and it was one of she's like that's a lot better. It's a lot better than I expected it to be. And at first we watched it because the whole film opens up with a black and white telling of Shakespeare. I can't remember what.
Well, it's like a montage.
Yeah,
montage of Shakespeare. Some of the performances from like the turn of this, what appears to be turn of the century,
the silent film era.
Yeah, I don't know if those are actual.
And she's like, "How old of a film did you pick?" And I'm like, "I don't. It's not this old."
Yeah, no,
it's 1973.
I was very much expecting, and I don't know why, because I just heard Shakespeare in Vincent Price, and I was like, "All right, let me guess, it takes place in a castle or whatever." And then like it opens up, and it's much
not
more
a castle to be found.
Well, it's much more like it's almost kind of like the Clockwork Orange. Like that was one of the things I kept thinking about when it came to the world was Clockwork Orange. Like that theater is like
that's the Putney Hippodrome, by the way, which was disguised as the Burbage Theater. It was built in 1906, which had been vacant and dilapidated for over a decade. And I think so then they were like, we're going to use it for the film, and it was later demolished in 1975. So 2 years later, it was demolished.
Well, because like they
made just to make way for fucking housing units. By the way, that's depressing.
Definitely set that building kind of on fire. Like there's places you can hide flame bars, and then there's just, but we have permission to set the building on fire?
Sure.
And it appears that they had permission to set the building on fire because, I mean, I could be mistaken, but if not, that's some incredibly good firework.
It really surprises me that this film is not more well known because the Los Angeles Times quotes this as quite possibly the best horror film in Vincent Price's career.
Yeah, it's so watchable. Where like every time I hear about Vincent Price, we hear about you mostly hear about the Edgar Allan Poe movies,
or Thriller.
Or being the voice of Thriller, or some of like the old noirs he did, or mysteries.
Yeah, Mask of the Red Death.
And then you get into stuff like Mask of the Red Death, which is one of the Poe films. But and those are much more known as like Corman films. That was actually one of the other things that shocked me is that this is not a Roger Corman movie. This movie reeks so much of Roger Corman and like AIP that I was sitting there being like, how did they not make this? You make movies with this guy. You make this kind of movie. You have to be mad at critics because so if you watched Mank on Netflix, one of the scenes that they have is they have one of the guys from MGM talk about what makes the movie different, the movie business different than any other business is it's the only business where you can sell the customer something but retain the thing that you sold. All they get is a memory. And now with physical media, that's not entirely true, but essentially that is what the film business is.
But it's kind of gone back to that now with streaming.
Well, yes, it is selling you the memory of the time that you watch it. Yes, exactly. Especially if you buy it on digital, you are technically just leasing that title until the
system in which that you are playing it on no longer exists.
Yes, and yes, there are things that you can do to get around that with downloading, but like that's only going to last so long.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie very much has the perspective of a filmmaker or of an actor who's like just trying to do their job, and then some critic just writes one bad review. And if you know anything about critics, you know that they have good days and bad days like anyone else. If you just broke up with your girlfriend, you are probably not going to enjoy the comedy that you are watching tonight. Roger Ebert, the first review that he wrote after his throat cancer surgery, his first one, was for Transformers, where he, compares the film to a child knocking 2 pots and pans together as hard as he can. But he gave it 3 stars. And you know what? If I had just survived cancer for the first time, I also would probably think that Transformers was pretty good in perspective. But these film critics absolutely can, with one review, ruin a show or ruin a movie or ruin an actor's career. And let me say to all of our people out there who I have written reviews before, I have been a critic before, we are having a show where we talk about the qualities of movies. I am by no means shitting on critics. Every critic has a right to their opinion. They have a right to do what they do in the same way that the actor has the right to go out and make that performance.
Yeah. But if you look in the long record of film history, there are so many celebrity directors and actors who straight up make fun of critics. And like there's a couple, what was it, like Steven Spielberg?
Well,
especially
Citizen Kane got bad reviews when it came out. It's a Wonderful Life was a bomb when it came out. Wizard of Oz was not super well taken when it came out. So many amazing classic movies were not well received on their initial release. And a lot of movies that also did boffo business when they came out. Like, has anyone popped in their copy of King's Speech lately? No, probably not.
Hurt Locker really...
Hurt Locker I've come back to a couple times.
Couple of times?
I'll go to bed for... I'll go to bed for
all
Hurt
right,
Locker.
all right. I'll
But you know what I mean? Like, Driving Miss Daisy? Movie made a lot of money. Anybody here really excited to watch Driving Miss Daisy?
War Horse, you want to really pop that into your...
War Horse is actually pretty good.
Yeah. That was one of those films where I stubbornly refused to go see it because I remember seeing the trailer and I'm like, this literally looks like a spreadsheet of an Oscar film.
I did the same thing, and then my wife, or my ex-wife,
and I know it's based off of a play.
Well, so we went on our honeymoon. We had one of those. We had a really long hike. She was really tired and wanted to go to bed early while we were in Kauai, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not tired. So we went and I went to the Red Box, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll finally get War Horse. And because it's a Spielberg movie, I haven't seen it. I should see it. What else am I going to do tonight? Let's just put this on. And then an hour and a half later, I'm like, go horse, go! Run like the wind. Don't let them hurt you. Oh my God, this is amazing. It's Spielberg. It's one of even his worst movie is still pretty good.
With the exception of Ready Player One.
Ready Player One is pretty terrible. There's some stuff in it that's good. The Shining sequence I like.
Oh yeah.
But
it still had good things. Still had...
But even 1941 is real. It's got a couple of moments in it. It's not great, but almost everything else that he's done, even his worst stuff is better than most people's best stuff.
Oh no, hands down, absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah, it's just it's. I don't know. I like the idea of him going after his critics because these are it gives him, I think, the perfect motivation.
Yes. Well, and he also reveals that...
And you understand why he's doing it, and you understand... And he even explains it to one of the main critics, Devlin. He's why, we're just doing our job. And he's like, yeah, well, your job is also ruining the careers of amazing artists and people who bare their hearts and souls to you for your entertainment.
Well, they also reveal that like one of the critics was just absolutely soused during one of the performances.
And just saying, this is so boring, I fell asleep. You fell asleep because you drank too much. Fuck you.
And many, they revealed that the critics kind of had an agreement amongst them that they weren't going to reward this guy.
Each critic has a character flaw they
get mad at him for just doing Shakespeare stuff, which I'd be willing to bet that some of that is Vincent Price being like, a lot of critics say I only know how to do horror. You know why? Because they won't cast me in anything else. I can do other stuff.
I love
Look
that
at me do Shakespeare.
I love that Harry Andrews' character, because he's the horny old man.
Yes,
pretty much. I love that his character's name is Trevor Dickman.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that is. I missed that.
It's just little slights here and there, and like I don't know if maybe let's talk about the critics a little bit, because it's an ensemble show.
Definitely.
With a large cast of very talented classical actors.
It's a lot. It is a lot of kind of what I was talking about with Vincent Price's characters, where it was a lot of very strong B players, people that you're like, oh, that character actor from that movie, he's great in blah 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 and this, but it's never like this. Vincent Price is the only lead in this movie, but the entire cast is all like they're all really solid actors. They're always up there hitting doubles and triples. They're not home run guys. They're not Babe Ruth. They're not
character
drawing the
actors.
crowds. Yeah, they're like no. They always get on base.
Yeah,
like that's no. That's their value. No, they don't usually hit a home run. They don't usually make. But if you want to advance the bases, cast these guys. Like that's these are the unsung heroes of acting. The people who can just come in for one scene or one little part. And you don't have to worry about it. They get their part. They come in. They nail it. And they're just not a problem. Yeah. They're not a personality that you have to tame. They're not anything other than just there to do their job. And boy, do they do it well.
Absolutely. And an interesting little fact, too. One of those critics, Coral Brown, she was the one, Death by Hair Salon.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which is supposed to reenact the Henry IV Part 1, the burning of Joan of Arc at the stake, which I thought was that was one of my favorite scenes, by the way. That was apparently Coral Brown is Vincent Price's second wife, and they met on this set.
Aww.
Though, interestingly enough, they met on the set while Vincent Price was still married.
I hope you don't mind that I murder you, my dear.
What a bonding moment this is for us. I feel like we've grown closer as a couple. Also, you don't mind if my wife is there in the background, do you? No,
so just staring.
I don't know how that timeline worked out, but it was apparently, oh God, who was it? Let me see. I have this in the notes. So like Vincent Price introduced his future wife, Coral Brown. Diana Rigg introduced the two.
That's amazing.
Diana Rigg introduced the two during the making of the film. Brown recalled in a television documentary, Caviar to the General, in 1990, that she had not wanted to make one of those scary Vincent Price movies, but she was persuaded to take part of Chloe Moon by her friends Robert Morley and Michael Horden, acknowledging that the film had thus far a very strong cast. Rigg introduced the couple, ignorant of the fact that Price was married.
Oh.
So I'd like, but you know, to the credit of that couple, like they remained married and were happily married. So you know, sometimes you're in a unfortunate marriage and Coral Brown hops into your life and you're just like, you know what? Why not?
I have a friend who his third marriage is the happiest he's ever been, and he couldn't imagine it happening any other way. That said, he did kind of fail upwards into romantic success.
Yeah. Oh, God damn it. Well, Ken, I say this, I want to get, before we sort of wrap this up, I kind of want to just get your final thought on this.
Okay.
On the wonderful classic that is Theater of Blood.
This is a movie that I would recommend to not only horror fans and comedy fans, somebody who's just looking for something fun and wild to kind of put on. I would also highly recommend this to independent filmmakers. The simple but ornate and complex filmmaking that is on display here, just the use of combinations of zooms and dollies that are not, when you break them down, they are not complicated. We're not talking about Children of Men, giant 17-minute oneers with steady cams where the person runs all over the place. I am talking about a zoom out, dolly back, and a pan. something that can actually be achieved with an office chair if you just have like the right wheels or the right ground. Not something that you need thousands of dollars worth of equipment for. If you sit in an office chair, you could zoom out, be pulled back, and pan over. And that kind of simple but complicated shot design is something that can give something that doesn't have a lot of money a really, really unique look. And I think that's something that, as filmmakers, any of you out there should study this. The other example of that I would put up there, well, two. I would say 12 Angry Men is another great example of that kind of unbelievably simple but complex filmmaking and blocking. And then also Ash versus the Evil Dead. The pilot, only the pilot directed by Sam Raimi, has some of the best low-budget filmmaking I have ever seen. It is a textbook of how to get 110% out of your script, how to elevate it past what it, like, how to take a movie that should have been a toss-off Vincent Price, just another film in his filmography, how it becomes both his and Diana Rigg's favorite film. By just giving a little extra, writing a little more cleverly, and just shooting both the hell out of it. And here's the other secret. When you move the camera like that, it's actually really easy to hide a lot of stuff as well. So if you're making a movie that doesn't have a huge budget, a lot of what you're doing is hiding what you don't have. And a good camera shot can really hide the seams and give your image and your storytelling just that extra little bit that takes it from like a good movie to like, that was banger.
Yeah. And Ken, thank you for choosing this film, because I think
Thank you for choosing it as well.
Well, having done a lot of Shakespeare and loving it so much, like I moved out here to Los Angeles, and the Shakespeare kind of, for the most part, with the exception of a couple of small things that I worked on, pretty much disappeared. And so it just felt so nice to hop back into that boat and just. I'm at this point, I'm going to continue binging myself some Shakespeare.
Nice.
I'm currently like halfway through the Hollow Crown series, and oh god, it's so goddamn good.
If you guys are looking for a great Shakespeare adaptation, I highly suggest the David Tennant, Patrick Stewart Hamlet that was done by the BBC. It is absolutely fantastic. It is probably my favorite Hamlet, and David Tennant is incredible in it.
Patrick Stewart also does another amazing Macbeth, which is sort of, I think, adapted to the theme of almost Soviet Russia.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's the Ian McKellen Richard III that takes place in the Third Reich, which is really good as well.
Mm-hmm. King Lear with Anthony Hopkins, the most recent adaptation, is on Amazon Prime. Yep. I just watched that recently for the first time, and it is just balls to the wall amazing. So yeah. So with that being said, I'm going to take off my
Freaky Friday hat.
My Freaky Friday hat. I'm going to hand it back to you to put away.
We're going to switch back into our bodies and in control of the podcast again.
And Ken, this is episode 10.
This is.
We made it to our double digits.
Double digits, baby. It seems like we should have a cake or something, except I'm lactose intolerant, so we'll have, I don't know, some other kind of candy.
That's why we have beer.
There we go.
Cheers to you.
Now, David, for next week, we have a choice of 2 films.
Okay.
Now, one of the filmmakers I talked about tonight was Mario Bava.
Mm-hmm.
And one of his films, Bay of Blood, a.k.a. Twitch of the Death Nerve, is going to be one of the films that I have selected. And the other one is the Denise Richards film, a woman I have had the absolute pleasure of working with, in Tammy and the T-Rex. So we are going to keep things a little bit light.
Okay.
One involves a romance between a animatronic T-Rex that has had the brain of Paul Walker put into it, and his romance with his girlfriend Denise Richards. And then Bay of Blood, which is one of the proto-slasher movies. It takes place at a weekend lodge vacation place.
Yeah.
And somebody does a bunch of murders.
Oh, kind of like, what's that most recent movie with Chris Hemsworth?
I don't know.
At the lodge, it's
was it the El Royal?
the El Royale
Hotel.
Yeah.
El Camino Royale Hotel, something like that.
Who the fuck knows? Yeah, sounds a lot like that.
Yeah.
See, now that I mentioned it, he has to look it up.
Bad Times at the El Royale.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
There we go. Yeah.
So
No.
if he doesn't look it up, it's going to bug him for the rest of the time.
No. I had to. That neuron, that brain wrinkle, was not fully formed, and so when that happens, you have
We just
to
massaged it a little bit,
Yeah,
and it's
you
good.
Just, you just have to reform it and remind it, where its place is, and then the next time I'll be like, oh yeah, the Royale, yeah, I know that one.
Okay. Ken, could you do me a favor? Could you prep the time machine?
Yeah,
for
sure.
me?
Hang on, just did. Lighting on. All right, we're all set here. If you want to sit here and get here and step in with me, and we're going to go ahead and travel in time a couple of minutes here, and then we are going to tell you. Well, maybe we're going to tell you, maybe not. Will it suspense? David, we are in the future.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Everything's still the same.
Sadly, yes.
Because everyone stayed home, hopefully.
Now, David.
No, they haven't? Oh, fuck.
David, we have watched trailers now for both Bay of Blood, aka Twitch of the Death Nerve, and Tammy and the T-Rex. A very serious film made by very serious people.
I'm telling you, that was an artistic marvel of a trailer.
It
I think
is.
That trailer deserves an Oscar.
It does. The movie does. Everyone involved does. It is real. Well, David, do you want to tell people what we're going to watch next week?
Ken, you like to hold people in suspense.
It's true, I do.
You know, I like to be straightforward with them.
All right.
I'm sorry.
How dare you?
One film has a mechanical T-Rex that has the brain of late Paul Walker in it, trying to seduce Denise Richards.
Both late Paul Walker in the movie and late Paul Walker in real life.
Yes.
And not just trying to seduce Denise Richards, seducing Denise Richards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was so seductive that then he became a T-Rex, and Denise Richards was like, "Yeah, sure."
And so that's Bay of
I'm
Blood,
okay with this.
right? That's no. Tammy and the T-Rex is the
Tammy
one with
and
the
the
T-Rex. Okay. Wow.
Bay of Blood. It looks interesting.
It's Mario Bava.
Here's the thing, Ken. I believe you, with the exception of the fish rape movie. You have not led me astray.
This is true. And
I have enjoyed
I'm
most of the movies that we've done together.
Uh-huh.
I would say that Hell House was a little bit more of the most meh of the films that we've done so
This
far.
movie neither of us had seen, so we didn't know what we were getting into.
Who's to say?
But this one's definitely been one of my favorites, and I'm glad that you gave me an excuse to watch a movie that I just hadn't gotten around to because it looked fine, but it actually just absolutely rules. David, do you have any pluggables that you want to plug?
The only pluggables, feel free to follow us on Shutter_show on Instagram. You can also follow me at _DW Marlowe on Instagram. And apart from that, also happy announcement that apparently Serena Waits has reached close to 1 million views.
Hey, congrats!
And as far as films go, was on Rotten Tomatoes and on the ratings, didn't get quite what I expected it to get.
Nice.
It got a little better.
Got a little love.
It was, once again, this is one of those sort of experimental films to see if we could shoot 90 pages in 3 to 4 days, and we accomplished that task. And that is the movie itself is a giant experimentation film. To see, like, we took
to see if you could do it.
Yeah, we took a basic plot, revenge plot that you see in a lot of like very grungy horror films, like I Spit on Your Grave, and so that was sort of the format we were going on. Hunter Johnson is an incredibly talented director who actually got to work with one of the actors that I noticed in the trailer for Tammy and the T-Rex.
Oh, nice.
You might recognize him from Twister as one of the members of the group that chases tornadoes. Okay. But yeah, he's in Ugly Sweater Party, which Hunter Johnson did not direct, but he co-starred in, or had a supporting role. It's a wonderfully campy film. I honestly recommend you check it out. It's really great, and feel free, guys, check out Serena Waits, and yeah.
And you can find me on Twitter at Ken Stacknick. You can find me on Instagram at Ken Stacknick, and you can find us on Twitter at Shutter Show. And other than that, I don't really have anything too much in the works. I've been doing some voice work on a show called Zardoz Speaks, episode 5. There's a couple of commentaries on there.
Pretty fucking funny.
Thank you very much. So those are pretty good. They're just on the YouTubes. for you kids to check out.
Also, for our next episode of Tammy and the T-Rex, I would also like to mention the fact that this movie apparently has Denise Richards in it. And Ken, I'm to understand that you worked with Denise Richards?
Indeed. I shot a whole movie that she starred in called The Toy Box, and it's very good. I was on Hulu last I checked. But yes, and I will say this, Denise is lovely, and I cannot wait to talk about her and this incredible movie that I swear is real next week.
Okay.
David, until then, good night to our friends, to you, to the internet, and also go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourselves. I love you guys so much, but fuck
Love
you.
you.